Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Sy Huffer and Friends. This is a podcast designed to help you flourish at life and relationships. I'm your host, Sy Huffer, lead pastor of the Gathering Christian Church in Naples, Florida. And typically each month we do an episode called Can I Ask That? And we tackle different topics about faith and life and how you make faith and Christianity real and applicable and accessible to you in pursuit of the full abundant life that Jesus offers. What we're going to do is a special episode today. We took a study that we are giving and created for people at our church that are just coming out of the baptistry, who are brand new to Jesus, brand new to church, that we use to teach them what does it look like to be a follower of Jesus? What does it look like? What are the basics of this Made for More life? And what does it look like to engage in church life? And why is worship important? And why is being in a group and being involved in the mission of God important? And so what we're going to do is we're going to give that content to you today. And yet on the back end, I invited my friends Andy and Lindsay to do a Q&A session, a special Q&A session on that content just for you. I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's helpful for you and helping you take that next step towards that Made for More life. Well, hey everybody, this is session 2 of our training of our new believer, new follower of Jesus course called Made for More, the Basics. And so we are talking about what does it mean to get that full life that Jesus provides, that abundant life, what we call that Made for More life, because we believe that you are made for more than the life you're striving for or the life you're settling for. And so here are the basics. Like here's what it looks like. Like here are the gatherings and the habits that we saw the early church do that helped other people, themselves included, live that full life by becoming a disciple or an apprentice or a Padawan of Jesus. His life become theirs by spending time with him. Last session, we kind of gave the overview of these 3 gatherings that from the early church of the book of Acts, we saw them participate in a worship gathering, a home gathering, and a mission gathering. The next 3 sessions are going to dive deep into each one of these. We're going to do a double click. We're going to double click on worship today. The next session we'll double click on home gatherings, and then the last one on the mission gathering of the church. And so these gatherings are vital as part of the community of Christ. If you do church, these are the rhythms of church. Like this is what you do. We also saw from the book of Acts that you see them devote themselves to these spiritual habits. We saw last session that they devote themselves to the apostles' teaching. Well, what do we do that? How do we do that today? What does that look like today? Well, you read your Bible on a regular basis, and we give you tools and resources to help you do that. Today, this session, we'll talk about prayer. Next session, testimony and story. How do you share your testimony? Why is that important, sharing your story of Jesus impacting your life with others? How does that create belonging and connection with others? And lastly, we'll talk about, in the last session, the discipline and the habit of the gospel, telling the gospel to yourself and telling the gospel to others. And so today we're going to double click on the idea of the worship gatherings. In Acts 2:42-47, we saw this is what the early church did. This is how they lived out the full life and taught others to live out the full life of Jesus. And I have underlined there, one of their rhythms is they worship together at the temple each day. They literally left their homes, their marketplace, their jobs, and they would take time to go to this place all together, or they're with other people who believed, and they worshiped God at this special place. Why? Like, why was that their rhythm? I mean, and that's been the rhythm of the church for 2,000 years. Probably when you think of church, you think of Sunday morning or sometime on Sunday or during the week. You go to a building and you participate in a service, a worship service, a gathering of other Christians where they sing songs, where someone teaches, where they take communion. That's your idea that you think that's basically what church is. Well, it's really a third of what the history of the church has done for 2,000 years. It's an important third, but it's just a third of it. So to understand, like, what is this? Like, why did they do this and why was it important? What is worship? Like, that's a word we don't use regularly in our culture today. What is worship and why is worship important? Can we just say right up front that worship at church is weird? It's just kind of weird, right? You're in a room, there's lights, there's musicians on stage, they put words on the screen because they want you to sing along. Like, that's kind of odd. They don't really do that at concerts, do they? Like, what is worship? Why do we have this big production and all of this stuff? It feels like we're just doing karaoke right before a TED Talk. We're singing, we're supposed to sing along with this person. That's probably the closest thing to a worship service that our culture does, is karaoke. And then someone gets up and delivers some kind of message from this old book of the Bible, and they try and give you practical things to do today, some kind of TED Talk, if you will. Why is this important? What is worship, and how is it different from the culture, and how does it give me the full life, the abundant life? Well, let's start by defining the word. Okay, worship is attributing the ultimate value to someone or something. It's a Greek word, proskuneo, is how what we translate that word into the word worship in the English language. And when they talked about proskuneo, or worship, it was the idea of kissing towards a king. It was a servant would come before a king, and they would bow down, and they would usually kiss their ring. They would kiss towards that person. They would give that person value and significant and a special place in their life because they're king, right? They're special. Worship is attributing value to someone. It's attributing worth to someone or to something, saying, hey, you have value, you have worth, and I'm going to give that to you by my offering, by my sacrifice, by the gifts I bring to you. It's why the wise men from the East at the Christmas story, they bring gifts to Jesus, because they're attributing value and worth to him. You may be wondering, okay, if that's what worship is, why do I have to do that in a room with other people with some kind of big production on a Sunday morning at a certain time, at 10 a.m. or 9 and 11:30 or whatever? Like, can't I do this by myself in my deer stand or on a paddleboard in the ocean just as good as in a church building with other people? The problem is, when you try to worship by yourself, here's what's going on, okay? There is a gap between what I know and what I do. I think we would all agree with that. There's a gap between what I know and what I do when it comes to eating healthy. I know I'm supposed to eat certain foods and not eat others. That certain foods maybe make my stomach upset, or maybe there's I just can't say no to the chips and salsa at night. That you can see that's like my issue, right? I know the truth about what's good for me and what's not. I know about nutrition. Knowledge is not the problem. My desires are. My cravings are, my yearnings are, my habits. The problem is not knowledge. The problem is desire. And I don't know about you, but I have not figured out how to change my desires on my own. I've not unlocked that key. There's things in my life that I feel like I'm addicted to, that I feel like I can't go without, that these desires overwhelm my knowledge. These cravings I have overwhelm what I know I should or shouldn't do, and I end up reverting back to those desires because I can't overcome them. James K. Smith, in his book, You Are What You Love, he says this: our hearts are on fire, yet we keep pouring water on our heads. See, there was this belief that if we could give people enough education, if we could get enough information into people's heads, they would become better human beings. They'd become better people. And then we had the internet come out and the information revolution. We now have more information at our fingertips than ever before. And all we've seen is mental health crisis, depression, anxiety, suicides, mass murders, terrorism. We've just seen war break this world apart, even though we all know and we all have all this education available to us, all this knowledge available to us. The reality is our heads are not the problem. It's our hearts. It's our desires. How do we solve that? How do we change our desires? It's like Jesus knew this. In John 1, when he first came across some people that might be disciples of him, that might want to find the full life that he would offer, he asked them this question. This is the first question Jesus asks anybody in the Gospels. What do you want? What do you want? That's not a knowledge question. Hey, what do you know? Or, hey, how many degrees do you have? Or, hey, what AI extension do you have available to you right now that you can get whatever information that you want right now? No. He's like, what do you want? What's your heart's desire? See, at the heart of the Made for More life is changing your desires, what you ultimately want and long for. You see, I don't want to be a Dallas Cowboys fan. I really don't. Okay. I have tried to change teams. I've tried to say, you know what? I'm done with them. I'm going to be, I moved to Florida. I'm going to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan or a Dolphins fan. I'm going to choose another team, Jacksonville Jags. Andy will like that. I'm going to be someone, I'm going to choose another team. And I try to root for that other team. And yet the moment I see that star on the helmet on the field, I cannot stop myself from wanting internally that team to beat everybody else. You want to know why? It's because I grew up in a house that cheered for the Cowboys. And so much so, every Sunday we watched the game. This is what my training was, okay? This is my masters or my dad and my granddad's, and they cheered for the Cowboys. And one time when I was at fourth grade, they picked me up from school at Monday, right after school was out, took me down to Dallas. I grew up in Oklahoma, 3 hours from Dallas. We drove down there for Monday Night Football. I saw Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, all these incredible guys, these legends, these Hall of Famers playing a game against the horrible Philadelphia Eagles, okay? And in the stadium, it came down to the last play. All the Eagles had to do was kick a field goal to win the game. And I got down on my knees, a short field goal, like a 17-yard field goal. I got down on my knees. I'm embarrassed to say this. And I prayed, God, please let the Cowboys win. And the Eagles fumbled the ball. Crazy, the holder did. The Cowboys tackled him, recovered the fumble, won the game, and I went bananas crazy cheering for them. That environment, the star, the people, the experience with these people that I looked up to, my dad and my granddads, these men that had such an impact in my life, it developed in me a desire that my head says is bad for me. But my heart says, no, I still want them to win. Okay. Our heart's desire is so strong, it overcomes what we know is right or not right. See, our heart's desire, at the heart of our heart's desire, is for something or someone to give us the flourishing life. This is what we all want. We're looking for something or someone to help fix the problem in our hearts, in our lives, and whatever that thing is or that person is, that is what we give the most value and worth to in our life. Whatever we're hoping will give us a flourishing life, that's what we actually worship. Because we believe that thing is the ultimate thing. That person's the ultimate person to fix what I've got going on in here. That's what we call worship. And changing what you worship is at the heart of the matter when it comes to the Made for More life. So how does a worship gathering do this? How does a worship gathering do this? Right after the Titanic sunk in 1914, Congress convened a hearing to discern what happened in another tragedy with this steamboat called the Monroe that was off the coast of the Virginia coast. And it was really foggy that day. And the steamship Monroe was rammed by the merchant vessel, the Nantucket. 41 sailors lost their lives. And Captain Edward Jones of the Monroe was grilled in this hearing by Congress for over 5 hours. What they centered the grilling on was his compass. You had a compass to guide you, to tell you where to go and not go. Okay. And what they found when they investigated his compass was that it deviated 2 degrees from the standard magnetic compass. It was 2 degrees off. Well, when you think about 2 degrees, it's not big of a deal. But as you start traveling for a long time with your compass being 2 degrees off, it will not get you where you're supposed to go. And what they found is his whole time of being captain of the Monroe, he never adjusted or recalibrated his compass to get back on track with the true magnetic north. This is what happens when your directional system is misoriented, is you end up in wrecks. You end up having a crash. James K. Smith says this, that the reminder for us is this: if the heart, our desires, is like a compass, a homing device, then we need to regularly calibrate our hearts, tuning them to be directed to the Creator, our magnetic north. You see, this is why the worship gathering is so important. It's like bringing the internal guiding system of your life, your heart, your desires, to that true magnetic north compass, saying, hey, listen, nothing else, no other thing, no other one can give me the full life. Only God can. And I need to get in a spot in an environment with other people where my heart is touched by art, my mind is touched by truth, that I literally take the bread and the body of Jesus and I remember what I've already said I believe to be true, I recalibrate the internal compass of my heart to give the ultimate value and worth not to anything or anyone else, but to the true King on the throne, Jesus. He's the one that can give me the full life. We need to recalibrate. We need to reorient ourselves regularly to ensure that our internal compass is not just 2 degrees off, not 20 degrees off, not even, 80 degrees off. We need to make sure it's not 1 degree off. And that's what the worship gathering does. Okay. It recalibrates our internal desires directed at the right person to give them the ultimate value that can give us the full life. Paul says it like this in Colossians 3. He goes, this is what happens when you worship. Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. Since as members of one body, you were called to peace, and be thankful. Let the message of Christ dwell among you richly as you teach and admonish one another with all wisdom through psalms, hymns, and songs from the Spirit, singing to God with gratitude in your hearts. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a worship service to me. He's saying, hey, there's going to be a message. Let that message dwell in you. We're going to teach each other with singing and these hymns and these prayers with gratitude in our hearts. So the worship gathering actually is the thing that helps recalibrate your desires towards the right ultimate person who can give you that full life. And worship does this in a couple of ways. Worship reorients our desires in 2 ways, through imitation and through practice. See, in imitation, we imitate others who have their desires, their loves oriented towards God. And so when we get around other Christians, maybe we're 5 degrees off, or maybe we're 30 degrees off, they're 1 degree off, or maybe they're on magnetic north. So when we imitate them and pray their prayers, we sing along with them, we talk with them in the hallway about what's going on in their life. Imitating what other people do help reinforce to us and recalibrate our hearts and our desires towards the right thing. We need each other. It's also through practice. We practice orienting our heart and desires and yearnings towards God and His kingdom by getting in that space and sometimes saying words you don't want to say today, right? It's, God, your kingdom come, your will be done. Or, man, I praise you. I'll praise you anywhere. No matter what high I'm going through or whatever low I'm experiencing, Lord, I'm going to praise you. Or it's taking the body, the blood of Jesus and remembering He did this for me. He's the one that paid for my sins. It's the practice of going through that every single week on a regular basis that helps recalibrate your heart towards the ultimate being that can give you that full life. And so this helps us remember this, that your past does not define you because of what Jesus did. See, our hearts get off kiltered because of all the mistakes that we make, the sins that we live with, the baggage that we carry with us everywhere we go, the skeletons in the closet. And when you come out worship gathering, you remember every single week, you have to remember this, because Satan tries to accuse you. He tries to keep you trapped in having your heart off kilter by your past. And when we come to that worship gathering, remember that because of the grace of Jesus, He is worthy. He paid for my sins. He is now worthy of my worship to help me overcome what has happened to me and what I have done. So that's what we do at the worship gathering. And so that's the gathering. How do you live this out on a daily basis? The daily habit that helps you recalibrate your heart, not just on Sunday mornings, but every single day, is prayer. And we talk about, there's an acronym we use for how to talk to God, how to encounter God on your own. It's these things: praise, repent, ask, and yield. You can learn more about that at this QR code. We have a little short video giving you a tool, a resource on how to pray, because praying to God, talking to God may sound weird to you. That's okay. It's okay. Start here. Here's some resources for you to learn how to do that. Because this private worship in your prayer life and this public worship with the body of believers, the worship gathering, they are the things that keep your heart, your internal desires focused and redirected to the one that can give you the full life. Remember that you were made for more, so don't settle for anything less. Okay, Andy and Lindsay. So you're new to faith, you're new to Jesus, you're trying to figure out, where does this full life come from? I go to this worship service, this event on Sundays at church. what questions do you think people have about this recalibration of your internal desires?
Andy, you can go first.
Yeah, how do I let a message dwell in me?
The message of Christ dwell in you is one that you don't just hear it. You probably know how this works in marriage, right? Like when you're married and you like tell your spouse, "Hey, when you do this, it's hurtful to me." And they say, "I'm sorry," really quickly, and then they move on and they keep doing it. And you're like, they didn't get it. And you're like, "Hey, you didn't hear me." And it's like, "I totally heard you. You said, well, I did hurt you." You're like, "Yeah, but it didn't like take root." Like, yeah, we had that nice conversation, but how has this changed us, our rhythms, right? That what I said to you, it didn't change you. It didn't, you didn't grab a hold of it. You didn't own it. You didn't feel it. You just kind of moved on. That's the same, right? The message of Christ dwelling in you is hearing truth and saying, okay, I'm going to take that message and I'm going to, how do I put that into my life in a way that makes sense, right? How do I not just, hey, that was a good sermon. He told a good story. He made me laugh a couple times. That was fun. Let's move on. Okay. The message of Christ dwelling in you is saying, this is what that was about. That alters me in a way, right? That I'm absorbing that into my life. And this is the beautiful piece of a picture of like, when Jesus came to this earth, John 1:14 says, the word became flesh, right? So God became flesh in the person of Jesus. Well, here's this beautiful picture of what preaching is at worship service, is the preacher, whoever that is, speaks words. How do those words become flesh? Well, the congregation, us, we receive that message, and now we put hands and feet to that message. We are literally being little incarnations of Jesus. We're taking these words and making them real in the real world in a real way. We get to every Sunday have the words of Jesus become flesh in us. That's what it means for the message to dwell, is that it's altered us in such a way that we're now making that a reality in the world. That's a great question. Lindsay, what about you?
So, like, going to church on Sunday mornings, I can sit here and say I can go to church on Sunday mornings. And I know that's the purpose of like the series that you're doing. You go to church, you have home gatherings, you pray, you do all these steps. But like, explain to somebody, that you can attend worship gatherings on Sunday morning, but that you're not truly worshiping God. So kind of go into detail about that, please.
Yeah. Again, worship is attributing value and worth to something or someone that you believe can give you the full life. Okay. And so going to a worship gathering, if you're trying to explore Jesus and you're trying to check out Jesus and figure out if he's like the real deal and what this Christianity thing's all about, it's okay to come and to learn and to come and to explore. Actually, after Jesus says, hey, what do you want? To those disciples, the first invitation he says to them is, hey, come and see. Hey, come explore. Come follow me around and see if my life is worth imitating, to see if I am worth becoming a disciple of. Okay. There is an element of, we don't know. If you're brand new to church and Jesus and you're like, I'm just kind of in an exploration phase, you're not ready to attribute him the ultimate value and worth yet. Okay. And so that's okay. If that's what you're coming and that's what you're doing, come and see. That's totally fine. Okay. But what we can do, and I think it was at the heart of your question, is we can get into a routine. This is what I do on Sundays. I go to church. I go to church on Christmas and Easter. I go once a month. I go, when I can. And you go, you show up, you're there to be entertained. You're there to consume something. You're not there to give up something to God, because ultimately at the heart of worship is not what you get out of it. It's what you are offering to him. So even when people say, hey, I'm not getting anything out of the service now, or I didn't get anything out of the sermon, I'm like, that question and that statement doesn't even make sense or compute with the idea of what worship is. Worship is not about what you get out of it. It's what you are giving up. It's what you are offering up to God. And you should be able to do that at any worship service at any church, where you come and you say, I'm here not to just get something from the preacher or from other people. Yes, you're recalibrating your heart, but part of recalibrating your heart is you participating. That's why worship service, we have the words on the screen. That's why we try to have you get engaged, get up, go take communion. You are part of doing this. You are participating in this process, because what you're doing is you're attributing and you're recalibrating your heart through practice by saying, no. I am singing these songs. I'm praying these lyrics because I do believe he is worthy. I do believe he is the one that gives me the full life, that he turns graves into gardens, right? I am saying these words because I'm speaking them to make sure my heart is following what I'm saying, trying to guide my heart, my desires to, he's the ultimate value. He has the ultimate worth. I believe he's the one that can make my life the full life that he promises. He's who I want to desire. And so participation, bringing something and offering up value and worth to God, is the activity that recalibrates your heart and your desires towards him, the one that can give you the full life. Yeah, so it's not entertainment. It's not get out of the routine, figure out how to even stop before you walk in and pray. Lord, help me recalibrate my heart today towards you. Help me offer up ultimate value and worth to you today. Like, those are great things to do before you walk in and start going through the motions. Andy, how have you felt like you've seen the worship gathering recalibrate your heart, change your desires towards God?
Sometimes we all go through highs and lows, and so there's just been so many times where you go in there and you hear a good message and you feel these feelings, and you're surrounded by other people, and it can be so grand and so encompassing that you just almost walk out renewed. And so that really helps kind of redirect, especially as somebody who like battles with consistency. And so sometimes you can have that off period and it just like totally reshapes you and grabs a hold of you, and you're just like, I didn't even expect that today. I was just doing the thing because I was supposed to do the thing.
Yeah. Lindsay, I'm going to ask you a little bit of a different question and put you on the spot here. You have been traveling a lot over the last month, and there were several weeks you weren't able to be at worship service, and then you came back and you were able to be there in person again. Can you talk a little bit about like the impact of like not being at the worship gathering versus being there, that it had on you, even just during the week over the last month?
I personally notice a difference in my own life when I'm not going and attending church on Sunday morning. There's a lot more to living this full life, but going to church on a Sunday morning, like that's where I'm at on a Sunday morning anymore. It's a non-negotiable thing in our family. If we're in town, we're going to church. I think for not going, it kind of just like leaves that emptiness, and like it's a missing piece. So it makes me feel like there's that piece of me that's missing. Like I don't have the I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, but like when you're like, oh gosh, I might have lost the words. When you're like, yeah, I don't have like a purpose, I guess. And I think that like going to worship gathering on Sunday mornings, going to church on Sunday mornings, just like it makes me find that purpose. And for me, like you could be struggling with something personally, and then you go to church on Sunday morning and it's like you're speaking directly to me, and the message is about, it's like a meant for me message. And I feel like that every single week. And then when I'm traveling and I don't hear these, it does get tough. I do try to listen to your messages, so the ones I am missing, I am listening to them when they are released, so I stay up on them. But it's like being there in person, listening isn't doing it for me. I like to be there in person and be around everybody. And worship music to me is, I love worship music. That's what I listen to in my car as I'm driving down the road if I'm having a bad day. So worshiping in church is like one of my favorite parts of a Sunday morning too.
It's so good. And I think there's a good piece to point to it is like, in the world of online church, where you can watch a service, you can listen to a sermon, you can listen to great worship music, you can watch a great produced online worship service. That's like watching. I hate to keep going back to this, but that's like watching the Cowboys play on TV on Sunday. It's like,
It's not the
I mean,
same.
that's terrible anyway. But it's not the same.
It's not the people. It's the
It's
people in
not.
the community. Like,
It's when you walk in there and you have I have chills thinking about it. Like when you are there in the room with all the people and you are hearing them sing with you. When you see someone else raise their hands, someone else who's in tears, crying about something, you see your heart is carried by your body. Okay, that's a very, very, it's very obvious, right? But we are embodied physical creatures. This is not a religion of ideas. Jesus didn't just give us an idea. God became man, and he lived life with us on this earth in a body, interacting with us. And what changes your desires is putting your body through those motions of practice and imitation so that your heart and your desires are recalibrated through art, through the testimony of other people who are being moved by whatever. That whole environment is this beautiful encounter with God that you cannot get really on a screen.
And I should add, like, that sense of community, going to church on Sunday mornings, and the sense of being with others, like you said, like seeing everybody else feel the same way you do. And it's when I wasn't there for a couple weeks and someone's like, oh, it's so great to see you, and you have these meaningful conversations. I mean, that it's been, yeah, that's why church on Sunday mornings is, I hate to miss it.
That's so good. Okay, what other questions do you all have? Do you think someone would be asking about the worship gathering?
So, sorry, I wrote down a question. Sorry, I'm making sure we're looking at the right one. So when you're, oh my gosh, why does, sorry, obviously, like, being around people, why does worshiping with other people strengthen your relationships rather than personal? You kind of got into that a little bit, but you didn't go in depth about why it's so important to do it together.
Yeah. So when you, I don't know about you all, but I make probably the worst decisions of my life when I'm alone. Right? Like when I'm alone, left to my own devices, what happens is my heart, like at the center of every sin is the sin of self. It's the sin of self. It's doing what I want to do, not based on what no matter how it impacts anybody else, right? Like that's at the heart of every sin, is a sin of self, of me putting myself above others. Okay. And so when I worship, solitude is vital, is a huge part of worshiping God, is like getting alone with you and God. Okay, that's true. I'm not replacing that. But if that's your sole source of worship, what Satan can do and what he will do is you are left alone to your own devices, to your own thoughts, to your own desires, and you can easily fall and get tweaked and get hit off kilter, your internal compass, to desire and justify your desires for what you want, for what you think you need. And I've just lived with myself long enough to know that I don't know what's best for me. The mistakes I've made, the biggest mistakes, they made a lot of sense to me at the time. I had logicked myself into them. Okay? So that's why the recalibration of your heart in the corporate gathering is so vital, is because you are already going. You may not want to go. That's saying, no self, no Sy, you are not in charge of you. God is in charge of you. God is your Lord. God is the King. He's the one that gives me the full life. And so he says in the scriptures, do not neglect meeting together. So I'm not going to. I'm going to be there. That already you're recalibrating your heart away from yourself to someone else, to God. Okay. And then as you go, right, as you are there, you end up serving other people. That's recalibrating your heart, right? You're giving ultimate value and worship to a king. You are being impacted by art, by beauty. that God created to help recalibrate your heart. You're praying prayers, you're hearing a message from the community of believers that God has gifted and equipped to help build up the church, us, so that we become that full picture of God here on earth. And so I think that when you think about sin as the sin of self, you begin to realize that, man, just me with God a lot of times is a cop-out. It's like, I just don't want to get up and go to church, or I don't believe in organized religion. I don't believe in God's bride. I've been jaded in one way or another. If you dig down deep enough, you start to discover, like, these are the things that are actually underneath that for the most part. Andy, what question do you have, man? I think people will be asking about the worship gathering.
I'm just curious because, I talk to people after service and I'm always amazed that they'll be like, that is exactly what I needed to hear today, which Lindsay just spoke to earlier. And I don't know how a pastor writes something weeks in advance without knowing that can not only resonate with the crowd, but so many people in that moment were like, that's exactly what I needed to hear. It doesn't happen every time, but it happens enough where you're like, but how?
Yeah, how in the world did that come about? I say this a lot. God plays chess and we play checkers, and he knows every fiber of our being. He knows what's going on in our life. Um, he knows what you need to hear. And there's this, I've been preaching for, 15 years now, pretty much every week, 10 years every week, 15 years on a preaching team or teaching team. I've been in pastoral ministry. That happens every single week. People come in, they don't want to be there. Maybe they do. And somebody goes into their study, some preacher takes the living and active word of God, the Bible, studies it, writes a message. They're prayerful about it. They're listening to the Holy Spirit's voice in it. They take that message and they go get up on stage and they speak this word from God. It's a weird thing. Like, it's mysterious how it works. Okay. And the preparation and the Holy Spirit being involved in that process, and then the Holy Spirit then taking those words and bringing the people to hear those words that need to be there that day. Like, how many times, I remember a few weeks ago, I preached on tithing. Okay. Like the importance of giving. And I was really stressed about it. I was like, we have a lot of new people to church. They're jaded by church. I was thinking about names of people. I'm like, man, I don't know how this is going to resonate with that person. And then months later, I met with someone who wants to get baptized, who had not been to church in years. You know what she said to me? She said, the Sunday you spoke on tithing. And she didn't talk about tithing. She talked about 3 other things that came out of that tithing message for her. And I'm like, God, how did you do that? I believe I have 100% belief that God is real, because I see this happen every week. And it's a mysterious encounter where he takes his living word, he uses broken vessels like me and other preachers to deliver it, and people who are broken, who are yearning, who are like that deer panting for a stream of water in Psalm 42, he brings them to get some water from him. And I can't explain it except for the fact that God is playing chess. He's bringing the people who need to hear a certain message, and he's preparing me in the process to deliver it in a way that it's going to resonate with them. It's wild. Yet it's awe-inspiring. And it makes it reinforces to us, this is not about the preacher. This is about God. He is doing this work. He's the one that gives us a full life. Lindsay, what about you, girl? What questions do you have?
I was expecting that to be the last one.
Oh, do you have one more?
Andy asked one more.
Why do I see some people maybe raising their hands in worship? Kind of what's that about, and how do I know if that's right for me? Kind of all around that.
Yeah.
Andy and I have talked about this quite a bit.
There's a verse, I think it's in 1 Timothy 2, where it says, hey, like the instructions is to stand with your hands raised in prayer. And so that's where that comes from, is there's like specifically this, like, hey, the posture of your body can help guide your heart, can help recalibrate your desires. Like, literally, that posture of raising your hands, you are now pointing, or you're now praising, or you're now attributing value and worth to him. Okay. And so the raising of hands is just a way in which it's not a sign of maturity. It's not a sign of like, well, the real Christians, the ones that raise their hands, like it's not that. It doesn't even have to be an authentic thing. You may feel awkward, or like, I don't really feel it today. I don't really feel emotional in this moment. Worship is not an emotional reaction to good music. Okay. My favorite band is Boston. Okay. I love Boston. My dad raised me listening to all the 70s and 80s rock and roll bands. And so I had never gotten to see Boston in concert. And this was several years ago. I think I was engaged, or maybe we had just got married with me and Monica, and we were in St. Louis visiting her family, and they got us tickets to see Boston in concert. I was stoked. I was so excited. And I came to this concert, and they played all the great songs, and I'm singing along. I'm having a blast, And then they sang my favorite Boston song, Amanda. I'm going to take you by surprise and make you realize, Amanda. And he's just like this falsetto. It's awesome. I'm just like yelling. I'm screaming. It's great. And then he gets to the bridge. And this bridge is just like the most rocking bridge of any like rock ballad. I love it. It's like, you and I. And he's like screaming. It's great. And I'm so into it. I start to raise my hand. And I have chills thinking about it. I'll never forget this moment. And I realized, I was like, oh my gosh, I think a lot of what I attributed to as major worship moments was an emotional reaction to good art, good music. And I had to reevaluate my heart at worship. Am I raising my hands because the singer's really good? Am I raising my hands, or am I feeling all the feels because the drums are banging loud? Or am I raising my hands because I believe that God on the throne deserves all the praise, all the honor, because I believe he's the one that rescued me from my sin and who is giving me the power over sin today so that I can experience his full life he wants me to have now. Right? Like, it checked my spirit. And I think that's why raising of the hands, I don't want to, I think a lot of times you do it out of obedience. You do it not because you're in the feels. I almost raised my hands to Amanda by Boston, okay? Because I was in the feels. You raise your hands because it's a way that we're holistic beings. What we do with our bodies matters, right? And I raise my hands because I am trying to recalibrate my heart, that internal compass, my desires, to the one that I believe can give me the full life. And so I do that out of obedience to him, out of saying, no, it's you. You deserve all the praise, all the glory. I can raise my hands like this. There's different ways to raise your hands in one hand, but that's why. And it might not feel authentic. Might not be in the feels, and that's okay, because you're guiding your heart with your body. And a lot of what that's what worship is all about, is recalibrating your heart towards him. Good stuff, gang. This is really, really good. Thank you for your questions.
For the record, I sing so loud and nobody wants to stand next to me in church because I'm the world's worst singer. And so that's why I'm always like in the back just by myself, because I don't want anybody to hear me sing, but I want to sing as loud as I can.
That's awesome. It doesn't say sing with a beautiful voice. It just says sing, right?
And my voice is definitely not beautiful at all. So,
well, hey, thank you all for your questions. Hopefully this is helpful for you all. Hey, you can follow along Sy Huffer and Friends at Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. We have an Instagram account as well. You can follow us there. And remember, as always, that you are made for more. So don't settle for anything less.